brief introduction to the SPE Technology and Technical Committee and Technical Circle. Today we have an amazing guest, a speaker that is going to talk about the well digitalization and automation, and followed by a Q&A. Next, I will share details of the next talk, and at the end we have a group photo. Besides those, today we have two lucky winners. The winners will be announced through the LinkedIn page of Technical Circle. Actually, this talk has been arranged by SPE Technology and Technical Committee. Here you can see its chairs and committee members. Fazil is online, and some of our committee members are also online. Recently, our chapter once again received the Section Excellence Award. I would like to congratulate to all of the members, officer, committee, and subcommittee of the SPEKL. Well done to everybody. And it's a very prestigious award from the SPE, actually, Society of the Petroleum Engineers. And recently, the committee has launched a technical circle to promote the new advancement of technology in our industry. Everybody with any background and experience can join through the LinkedIn and the WhatsApp group. Here we try to share some information about the technology, discussing the best practice of technology in this group. This is a best place for a professional people that they like to know more about the technology, and also is good for younger people that these two groups provide a platform for coaching and mentoring, actually. And we are calling for a discipline list. If you would like to contribute, please drop a message to the SPEKL. And today we have an amazing guest speaker that is going to talk about the Wells DDAA, Digital Data Analytics Automation, 6 years down to the road. TS Shahril Mokhtar will share with us his and his team experience on well digitalization and well automation. This is an opportunity to learn from the TS Mokhtar on the practical advice on the digital transformation journey. This session will be about how Wells embark on this journey, where we are today, and what is our heading for future, covering digitalization, data analytics, and automation. TS Shahril Mokhtar is a general manager for Wells System and Engineering Solution, Wells Center of Excellence in Petronas. He holds a Bachelor of Engineering degree in Mechanical and Aeronautical Design from University of Brighton, United Kingdom. He also holds a certificate in Petroleum Engineering and Reservoir Fundamental from University of Tulsa, USA. He attained his professional technologies accreditation from Malaysia Board of Technologies in 2020. His area of expertise includes technical, operational, commercial, procurement, and regulatory surrounding wells intervention, well integrity workover, core tubing drilling, completion, well abandonment, digitalization, and data analytics. He has a vast experience in ideal well management and production enhancement, in which he focuses on maximizing the value from existing field assets domestically and internationally. His digitalization project of the well management online drilling benchmarking system, ODBS, had improved the process cycle efficiency of the well process in the NPM. Besides those, he's a professional drummer. He's an active man. As I mentioned last week, he was attending the Ironman, and when he's running, he's using the technology. I think he used the technology in the office, at home, and in his free time. Today we have an amazing speaker, interesting topic. Shahril, we are looking forward to hearing you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Baba. Dear Fadil. Yeah. Is clear? The voice is clear?
It's clear. It's crystal clear.
All right. Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Baba, and thank you to SPE KL for organizing this session. I think the topic on digitalization is no stranger to our industry nowadays. In my recent posting about this, I call it, everybody is digital this and digital that. But today I want to take this opportunity to really share how is the journey on digitalization in our oil and gas industry, specifically to wells, covering the different cycle of well, from design, execution, drilling, completion, to well intervention, to well integrity, and last but not least, to abandonment. All right. Let me share my screen first. Hold on. Is it coming out all right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Okay, let's start. So I aptly put the title here as Wells DDAA, comprises digital or digitalization, data analytics, and automation. Okay. It was first introduced to the industry, I think about 6 years ago in 2015, 2016. And since then, various aspects of the industry have gone through its own version of digitalization. Okay. For this particular sharing, I will bring you through the I would call the ups and downs of digitalization or DDAA, from Wells' perspective. All right. This is our 6 years embarking on this journey, and we are still pushing through a lot of different aspects of digitalization in Wells. All right. Now, the way I do sharing, usually I would like to maintain a more interactive perspective, right? Okay, so feel free to pop any question in the chat room, and I also, will ask a few things that anyone can give their opinion. So first of all, why are we so hyped up about this digitalization? Okay, I mean, the oil and gas industry has been there for 100 years without any digitalization. So why do we need it? Why are the oil companies, the service companies are really pushing through this agenda, right? I mean, before it was officially or formally introduced to our industry, digitalization to me was all about, mobile phones, from edge to 3G to 4G and now to 5G. It all relates to that, all right? So anyone who is as young as me should be familiar with this character, all right? Anyone would like to give a guess who is this particular character? It is from a movie. I think the name on the truck already gave away the name. Okay, anyone would like to try to guess from which movie this character is? You can type or you can answer if you know, or unless everyone is not from the 1980s. Okay, never mind. So, anyone want to answer? Who's that? No takers. Okay, so this is Brief from the movie or franchise Back to the Future, a very famous movie back in the 1980s. There were 3 episodes. This is from the first episode where at the end of the movie, he became a driver or a chauffeur to the McFly family. All right. That is in the first series, the Back to the Future 1. In Back to the Future 2, he played a multi-millionaire character. All right. So anyone can guess what actually changed his fortune from a chauffeur or a driver to become a successful or millionaire in business? Anyone would like to take a guess? Don't be shy. Anyone in the chat? There you go. Boulder International Festival. Okay. What actually changed his fortune is actually this. Data. Lots and lots of data. What happened is the future, the same person in the future went back in time and gave the younger beef, the results of the results of all the major sports that happened in 1950 to the year 2000. So he had all the data, the statistics, the results, and he used that to basically do his betting and won all the lotteries and so on, and the betting, and he made his fortune through that. But bottom line is that he had data, he had the knowledge of the future. He had the statistic that helped him to basically achieve his fortune. So that is the main reason why the industry is going into digitalization. It's actually to manage our data in the industry in a more efficient manner. And each company, if you look at every, the company's digitalization effort and initiative and aspiration, at the end of the day is to manage the data better and to have the edge over other companies. At the end of the day, our industry, even though we are in one industry, every company is striving for becoming better than others, right? So that is the main reason why digitalization came into the picture. Our industry is known to have up to the level of petabytes of data, but it has never been, the main challenge is always to manage and to structure those data properly. So if you one person asks you why digitalization, this is the main reason, yeah, to keep our data in a more structured manner. Now, I will bring everyone today through this different perspective. First, I will define or realign what digitalization means to Wells. I will share on what are the different stages we go through for data analytics. And then I will also share what were the objectives, the workflow and roadmap of our journey. Last but not least, I will also bring attention to everyone. Where are we today after 6 years? And at the end of the day, did we achieve what we aim for until now? And of course, what is next in the future? All right. Now, first of all, digitalization versus data analytics. So digitalization, the layman definition is actually an adaptation of system or processes to be operated with the use of computers and internet. For example, the clouds infrastructure, even the music streaming, Spotify, Power BI, these are all the digitalization platforms that manage the system or processes. Even in the likes of Google and all that, these are all in infrastructure to basically manage data. Sometimes you also hear the term digitization. So the difference is digitization is the process of converting any information or data into a digital format. It can also come from a piece of paper where traditionally we would write notes and so on, and we want to change it into a digitized format. This is digitization, right? Now, what is data analytics? Data analytics is basically a systematic computational analysis of the data or statistics. For example, in our industry, our PipeSim, our Petrel, any software that includes a simulation, okay, to predict or to model certain data and put it in a graphical format and so on. So that is the main difference between digitalization and data analytics. Okay. Now, data analytics has its own different level of approach. Okay. Borrowing this particular graph from the Institute of Business and Accounting reference, this is quite common to see when we talk about data analytics. These are the 5 stages. Some, they combine the first 2 into one. Okay, they don't have diagnostic, but in general, this is what are the different level of data analytics. First, there's the descriptive. Okay, descriptive is basically a stage where you actually gather and describe what happened. You do the data mining, you get all the information and so on. And for wells, for example, when you're drilling a well, we take all the daily reports and see what happened yesterday and so on. It's a way to describe things on what happened yesterday. Okay. Next is diagnostic. So if you have an issue, or not just an issue, just to look at what happened yesterday and try to come up with why it happened. Okay, there must be an action taken yesterday that produce a result at the end of the day. So that's the second stage, diagnostics. Okay, it can be used during an incident investigation, or just even though there's no issues or problems happened yesterday, but it's just a stage where you actually look at the data and explain why it happened like that. All right. I put this in green because these two particular steps, basically in most aspect of the oil gas industry, we already at that particular level. All right. So for wells, these two descriptive and diagnostic is already there. We are already practicing it and so on. Now, the next one is predictive. Predictive is when you combine descriptive and diagnostic, but then you add the predictive models. Okay, this is where some algorithm is being fed in, and combining these three, it can actually be used to explain what could or will happen if you combine the data mining, the descriptive, and then why it happened. Then you put in a certain algorithm to it. It can then go into a predictive model to actually try to predict what could and will happen by doing all this. All right. Next stage is prescriptive. This is where you combine descriptive, diagnostic, and predictive. Okay, combining these three, you will arrive to a level where it's called prescriptive, where you can actually now can make something happen. It's not just a result that you're waiting for. You combine these three, and you will make it happen. All right, and this is stage 3 and stage 4. I put it in yellow color because this is where for wells specifically, there are certain areas that already gone to stage 4, but some are not. So that's why it's still work in progress. The last stage is actually cognitive, where you combine all the first 4 stages, the descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive, and you add in the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, the deep learning, and even robots, okay, to achieve a stage where it's fully future-proof automation. Okay, meaning it will take all the data, okay, it will compute and diagnose why it happened such. It will then add the predictive model, and you can already command, certain automation to make things happen, and it is all done automatically. There's no manual intervention and so on. Okay, in layman's term, cognitive, I give an example in the automotive industry. I take, for example, Mercedes. They have different level of driving. They call it driving adaptability and so on. Where if you take an auto cruise in a motor car, traditionally you just click on the auto cruise, set the speed that you want, for example 100 kilometers an hour, and the car will drive at a constant speed of 100 kilometers an hour. However, nowadays there's a new technology in cognitive where it can then look at all the surrounding data, the road condition, the car in front of you, and it will slow down, okay, on its own automatically to avoid any collision or accident. Once the car in front of you moves to the slower lane, the car will automatically also increase back the speed to 100 kilometers an hour. I know for a fact that for example, Tesla the car can be self-driven, right? But that is the highest level. For example, Mercedes, the automation that happens to the extent of even taking a corner on a highway, it can do it on its own. Slow down, reduce the speed, and take the corner on its own. So in wells, one of our aspiration is to go towards those kind of automation, where we will call it like an auto drill. We set the BHA, we set the depth, and the drilling rig will basically drill the well as what we already model it such. So these are the 5 different stages of data analytics. So if there is one thing that you want to take from today's session on the technical part, you must try to understand this different level of data analytics. All right. Now, let's go down to specific to wells. So for wells, our main objective is to enable wells to deliver its business objectives and wells safely, on time, on budget, on schedule, and on value. Okay, and how do we do this is by improving the pace, efficiency, and accuracy from a digital perspective. All All right. And we have three main aspiration that we want to be at the end of this journey. Okay. First, if we want to have a competent workforce. Okay. The people in Wells aspire to incorporate drilling skills, which is our traditional core skills, and add it to a digital insights towards a better, efficient operation. Second is data-driven organization. Okay, Wells is harnessing data for insight to make smarter and faster decisions, and ultimately to unlock values better. Last but not least is new way of working. Okay, with the digitalization approach, we want to change the way we work by responding to situation in real-time information. Okay, we want to constantly innovate things and see how else can we improve our Wells delivery process. Okay, but these are all aspirations. You know, there's no tangible, proper tangible targets that we are aiming for. All right, this is where we actually put in the measurement of effectiveness. In anything, in any digitalization approach or initiative that we put in, we will go across a process to validate the effectiveness through these three main elements. First of all is the cost benchmarking. The idea of putting in digitalization is to improve our wells delivery, but we need to ensure that it does not increases our well costs. Okay, that's one. Second is process cycle efficiency, PCE. This is how we actually improve on our business processes to deliver the wells, from planning to cost methodology and all that. Every digital digital effort that we put in need to the approach needs to be towards improving the PCE. In rule of thumb, for any industry, PCE is a measurement not only for oil and gas industry. In many industries, they use PCE to measure their effectiveness. Most industry aim or aspire to achieve at least 50% PCE. All right. Why 50%? Some people ask, why not 80%? You know, efficiency, the higher efficiency is better, right? It's about the higher PCE that you achieve not necessarily equates to better costs. Sometimes the increment from 50 to 55%, the cost increment to achieve another 5% PCE makes the whole project not cost effective anymore. All right. The last but not least is total cost of ownership, TCO. Okay. For those who are well versed in all the different apps or different software that we use in the oil and gas industry, know that all this software also carries some costs to the project. Okay, for wells, for example, we are now, as of we speak today, we have about 20 different softwares from various service companies that our organization uses to deliver one particular well. All right, and those 20 softwares cost money. By introducing a new digitalization approach, by right, it needs to reduce the dependency of these 20 softwares to either less number of software or reduce the whole total cost ownership of those 20 softwares. So these are the three main elements that we look at on how effective a certain digitalization initiative being put in, right? Now, as I mentioned just now, digitalization also goes into business workflows. All right. So for wells, we have a integrated workflow. We call it Wells Digital Integrated Workflow, where it covers the well planning, okay, and bring it into the well execution. But nevertheless, we don't forget about, let me just put a pointer here. Okay. The other factors that surrounds the well planning and well execution, which is the result, the performance and reporting, the performance benchmarking, the reporting to the higher management, and the AIs and also automation, and also the assurance and advisory. When we actually introduce digitalization, one of the challenges that we face is to ensure that our technical assurance and advisory are not affected by this digitalization. So those are the two different elements that we also add on to the whole business process. All right. What we are aspiring to is actually to have an end-to-end from wells planning to wells execution digitalization, and at the same time fulfills the need for performance reporting and also technical assurance. This is the high level of the Wells integrated digital integrated workflow that we deploy. Right. Now we have the workflow, we have the so-called business process integrated workflow and so on. We still needed to have a roadmap. Okay, it's a journey, so we have to map out over 5 years how and what exactly that we want to deploy into the different perspective of Wells. If you look at this particular roadmap, okay, we are covering the stakeholders, the well planning and well execution. Okay, as you know, we in Wells, we are actually an internal service company to the stakeholders as well. We actually, our job is to fulfill the requirements by the subsurface, by the surface, that requires a certain design to extract as much as possible the hydrocarbons that we are aiming for. Okay, and other than that, there's also the post execution, which is the lesson learned. Skill is our platform where we compile all our lesson learned, and not to forget our regulators, partners, and also asset, which are the main stakeholders in our Wells delivery. In this particular roadmap, okay, there are different colors here. The one in purple is something that we are working on. Okay, the one in blue is also in planning. The one in the one in green are the one ongoing. We already embarked on it and is still in the process of finalizing those systems. The one in gray are the ones that is basically what we have today. So we have the Droid, the KPI benchmarking, Wells dashboard, we have the DSID draw, and so on. I will go through one by one these different platforms that we have in the whole Wells business process, right? So where are we today on DDAA components? I've shared just now the 5 different data analytics stages that we want, that we need to deploy. But at the same time, in Wells, there are so many different areas that we look at. So we have put it in these 4 main categories. First of all, the front end, which is the planning. For front end, which actually we are just at the descriptive level. Okay, we just started on this this year and it's ongoing. All right, we will only see something in the digitalization domain for front end by end of this year or early next year. The one that we were focusing on for the past 6 years are mainly from operations, regulatory, and performance. Okay, so for operations, again, in the operation stage itself, there's so many different levels. And each of them carries a different data analytics level. So it's a mixture of predictive, prescriptive, and cognitive. Some of the digitalization platform that we have in Wells is QMAD, which covers the QA/QC of our third-party tools. Our Wells Real-Time Center in the Twin Towers. DSID is our digital standing instruction. Draw is our digital rig acceptance workflow. WASP is focusing on Wells augmented stack pipe. We actually have a predictive model 6 tenths before we actually while we're drilling, and to predict whether we're going to get stuck or not. Roma is focusing on optimizing our ROPs, also involves machine learning. And last but not least, the ultimate that we want to achieve is the rig mechanized automation, which the cognitive level comes in. All right. So that is on operation. On the performance, once we have already executed the job, we want to see how do we actually perform and what is the effectiveness. So this is where descriptive, we are at a descriptive level, where we have 2 main performance dashboard. One is Droid 2.0, and the other one is our performance dashboard on Power BI. Okay, descriptive meaning it is still manually input. Okay, there's no automation behind it and so on. Right. Last but not least, we also reports to our regulators. In Malaysia is the Malaysia Petroleum Management. For me personally, I have the opportunity to be on both sides. I was in Malaysia Petroleum Management, where I set up the online drilling benchmarking system, which is a fully automated system to oversee the performance of all the operators in Malaysia. May it be Petronas Carigali, may it be Shell, Exxon, and so on. When I was in MPM, that system can actually automatically monitors the results and the performance of all the operators with regards to wells. All right. And the beauty of that system is, if you go to any MPM engineers today, they will tell you that there is no need for them to manually intervene on any of the results that they want to. All the data comes from the daily drilling report offshore from all the operators in Malaysia. The engineers in MPM is basically just need to open up the ODBS and they can see immediately, as of yesterday morning, what are the performance of the PACs and start to do some analytics on it. All right. For Petronas Carigali, when we look at performance, okay, we are now looking at descriptive, the Droid 2.0 and the Power BI, which we are aspiring to be fully automated as well as per MPM's ODBS. Okay, so these are the four main areas that we look at with regards to wells. The front end, which is the planning, the operation, which includes some planning of the operation side, the operation during drilling the well itself, and third is the performance. Once we completed the work and so on, we need to assess how good we were in delivering those wells. Last but not least is the regulatory aspect, which is how we update the Malaysia Petroleum Management with regards to our performance. All right. Now, let's go a little bit deeper on each of the different digitalization platforms I have. First of all, QMAT. This was recently launched in July this month. It's actually the first dashboard developed in-house, which has a direct link to service provider input. When you talk about digitalization in an organization, for example, Petronas, most of the time or most of the digitalization platform only evolves around internal stakeholders. As I mentioned just now, maybe the subsurface, asset, and so on. But very seldom you see a connectivity to the service companies or to the industry itself. So QMAT is our first dashboard that have a direct link to a service provider input. All right, our QC section in wells has come to a stage where it's similar to MPM. All they need to do is open up the QMAT and the results and the analysis are there. The data itself comes directly from the services side, which is our third-party inspector. It will show us the status of incompliances, which areas. If you look at here, we have the system can actually look at incompliances by month, the different type of incompliances or equipment type. All right. Which service company that has the highest incompliances. Of course, the vendor name is being hidden here, but actually it will show every single company that provides services to Petronas. Here shows the different categories, which covers the standard incompliances, damaged equipment, preparation behind time, behind schedule, and so forth. It will also go into different projects, and all these statistics and also analysis that you see here is based on input that comes from the industry. Okay, none of our engineers actually input any numbers here. This number comes from the inspectors, and our job is actually to analyze this. All right, so this is QMAT, is being used heavily before mobilization of any equipment for a project. Now, during the operation, before we actually mobilize, when we accept a new rig, okay, we have to do a rig acceptance inspection, right? So draw is also something that we already established, where the rig acceptance workflow itself is done digitally. During the lockdown MCO, we have seen or utilized this during our remote rig acceptance. I give you an example. For one of our PNA operation last year, the HWU itself is based in Thailand. So we use videos, live videos to do the inspection and so on. And this is where draw is being used, and the rig acceptance workflow was done digitally. There was minimal need for our supervisors or staff to actually go and visit the rig physically to do the rig acceptance test. Now, once we have mobilized the rig and we are in action, we are drilling a well and so on. Previously, our common practice is to provide standing instructions to driller, either manually, by email, or via Word document or Excel spreadsheet. Now, we already established the DSID, which is basically templates that is easy to use. You can just drag and drop and develop, edit, or approve the SIDs within minutes, rather than you have to type manually every single time you want to instruct a driller. All right. So throughout our project, this DSID is being used by project management, by the engineers to basically communicate in a better and efficient manner with the drillers offshore. All right. Now, all that we are talking about is mainly on our operation on site. Okay. How about the monitoring of the operation itself? So we have a real-time center, which covers a lot of different aspects. Some are mentioned here. We have the real-time monitoring. Okay, drilling optimization. This is where things like Roma and WAS comes in as well. We have the visualization of every single data that we look at during the drilling and operation. There's some simulation that can be done as well in our real-time center. I mentioned about Roma and WAS just now. There's a real-time machine learning that's being deployed in our real-time center, where we can actually predict if we are going to get stuck. There's also the ROP optimization that will suggest the drillers that you can actually go faster and so on. There's also KPI benchmarking that has been automatically calculated based on the data that comes in real time from offshore. And last but not least, the predictive modeling and dynamic monitoring itself, right? So that's the real-time center. So we have all this data coming in, feeding through our system and so on. We spend a lot of money trying to get this data. We then move to the automation side, okay, which is the cognitive level of data analytics, okay. The beauty about automation is there is a standard way to approach things, okay, and there are 4 different levels in our automation plan. First of all is the digital suites, okay. First of all, we need to have an integrated platform that covers the planning, execution, and closeout phase that will actually optimize all these workflows that we have in Wells, all right. Then second is the service automation. It's basically an idea to provide a standalone service delivery performance by using advanced technology and machine learning, mainly to achieve fast decision making and consistent outcome. There are many times that it's very individual dependence on the experience of the DSV or drilling engineers has to actually come up with a decision. All right. The third was induced by the lockdowns, the remote operation and reduced manning offshore. There was situation during the lockdowns that we couldn't get the required personnel to send offshore. Either there was restriction to come into Malaysia or restriction to go offshore itself. So there was in the past 2 years as well, during the lockdown, there was an approach where the equipment that we have offshore needs to be enabled through remote operation, right? And the final stage that we want is the rig mechanized automation. I'm happy to share that we have actually completed our first well using a 3-tier or stage 3 of rig mechanized automation. When I talk about stage 3, we are talking about 3 different systems being successfully integrated, okay, to basically drill the well. And we have just completed our first well as a proof of concept. We are going into the second well, and if the result is expected in these 2 wells, we will then expand it to another 8 wells. But what do we look at? What do we automate in this RMA, we call it? No? Okay, first of all, okay, for the automation, we focus on 3 different things to automate. To automate the drawworks, the top drive, and also the mud pumps. Okay, we may have different system on board from different service companies, but we have just successfully proved that we can actually connect the automation of 3 different systems from 3 different vendors, and automatically will move the drawworks, control the top drive, and also increase the pump rates or decrease the pump rate depending on the real-time downhole data that we have. All right. So this has been this is where we are with regards to automation, but it's still under proof of concept. We're going to try on another well, and if overall the results are as what we expect or more, we will then expand to another 8 wells. All right. Now, performance. Then we move. We executed the project. We look at the performance. How effective are all the digitalization efforts that we put in? Okay. So first we have the Droid 2.0. All right. This is where we look at the rig planning, the drilling operation summary, wells performance, and last but not least, also well integrity and intervention. So once we completed the well, we then need to pass those wells to asset, where our well intervention and well integrity team will then look after these wells to prolong their production and before moving it to a P&A. All right. This particular page, which is Droid 2.0, covers different levels of or different aspects of the wells, and this is where we are aiming for this system to be fully automated like ODDS. Right. But as I mentioned, it goes back to three different elements to check the effectiveness of our programs. First is the well cost per foot. So in the past 6 years, the one in green, the well cost per foot was reduced in the first year of implementation, that plateaued up to 2019. But then we got hit by COVID in 2020. The well cost per foot increased, okay, because of standby of rigs, waiting on personnel, and so on. Then we got a better hold on the whole SOP of COVID. We managed to bring down the well cost per foot again through different digitalization effort that we put in. When we actually reduce the well cost per foot, we can also see the trend of the value created from it increases. Okay, apart from 2020, it reduced a little bit because we're spending more on the wells, and the value creation keeps on increasing. On PCE, the process cycle efficiency, wells in 2018, we were at 41.3%. And when we start deploy different digitalization effort, it has improved to 49.2% in 2021. There's still a lot of areas that we can look into to improve the PCE. One thing is for you to be made aware is that if you look at this graph, this is actually done manually. Okay, so there's still no automation to actually relate the value, the digitalization that we put in to the well cost per foot and to the PCE. This is something that will be improved, where we can actually automatically calculate all this at the end of each year that we deploy the digitalization. All right. So this is one. This is actually at the end of the day, whatever money that you invest in digitalization, these are the things that we use to show how effective our expenditure in digitalization towards our well cost. All right. Now, last but not least, on the regulatory to the Malaysia Petroleum. Okay, this is quite a common tale in our industry. My boss will say, Shahril, I need data for well A, and I will go, okay, fine, but when do you need it by? And the boss will say, now. When I know my data is in these Lego pieces, scattered across different databases, different servers, and so on. All right. So back in 2016, when there was also a hit on our oil and gas industry, the manpower that we have was cut down by 50%. MPM used to have about nearly 30 drilling engineers. It was cut to half, more than half, in fact, up to 12 people. We were spending at that time about 800 man hours every month for data management. Every month we need to do report, we need to do data mining, get all the data from different operators. For MPM, we manage over 100 newly drilled wells every year from all the operators in Malaysia. And there's also an uncaptured of value creation up to about 120 million ringgit. So we know that we had to change something. Then comes the ODBS, where it's a system where that it takes all this scattered data, sort it as per what we are required in our ODBS. It then rearrange automatically and present it visually to our engineers and the management in MPM. One thing I need to emphasize here, this system is automated, as I mentioned just now. The system takes behind the ODBS, there's an algorithm that takes automatically the data that is required from all the different operators in Malaysia and come up with the results for our engineers to analyze. All right. The algorithm behind here is quite complex, but that's where we have all the data scientists and the service company to provide a very stable platform. This is where we actually try to reinvent our upstream way of working. It used to be that is actually a real spreadsheet that every month we look at, okay, and at the end of every year to analyze the performance of all the operators in Malaysia. Happy to say that in ODBS, all the engineers need to do now, either on a tablet or on the phone, we can actually see how we are performing throughout the year. All right. And it looks at the different type of completion and so on, and how effective those design are upon execution. One thing about digitalization, even though we put a roadmap of 5 years, I personally believe that digitalization has no limit. We will continue to evolve as long as we want to continue to evolve. Okay, all right. So the ODBS, for example, it was at a predictive model, now goes into prescriptive analytics, where it can actually identify the gaps that it needs to be reduced in order to gain a better performance. For example, if we have the performance of Petronas at this at maybe at 80%, and there's another operator that is performing at 70%, and they are delivering the similar type of wells, that 10% gap, ODBS is learning and try to surface what does the operator B needs to do to come up to a level where Petronas Carigali is, which is 80%. All right. And we want to replicate this into the Wells Droid 2.0 as well. Right. So that's where we are today. And so what is next? So Wells is just one part of the whole E&P ecosystem. We have the exploration, development, production, and monetization, right? Where it carries different stakeholders and so on. So if you look at the bottom down here, well integrated operation, WIO, this is where we are trying to integrate between wells planning and execution, okay, across the border of the different 20 softwares that we have, okay, and the different technical assurance that we have. However, we have also a vertical approach that we need to ensure is fully connected to as well, which is the petrotechnical platforms, the digital field development, the digital field operation, and so forth. All right. So it's not just about wells that we look at. We need to make sure that we are connected vertically to different stakeholders in the whole E&P ecosystem. That's all from my side. If there's any question, I hope that is something that you can grasp in a nutshell where wells are with regards to digitalization and its approach for the past 6 years, and also what we are aiming for the next 3 to 4 years. Thank you very much. Back to you, Baba.
Thank you, Shahril, for interesting presentation, and congratulations to you and your team for a great achievement. I think during last 6 years, you and your team have done a great job. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now the floor is open, so welcome. If some of the audience has a question, they can write in the chat box or raise the hand and ask directly from you.
Sure. Any question? We have how many people here today? 62.
Yeah, 62.
So I expect at least 61 questions.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. Maybe I can start from myself.
Okay, sure.
Almost most of my career works on the digitalization. I remember when I was working in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, I faced a lot of challenges during my work digitalization journey. So almost every evening after finishing the work, I went to the Muay Thai or boxing class, and I tried to release my stress. I know you have facing a lot of challenges during last 6 years. May I know the main challenges that you face and how you overcome those challenges?
Okay. Thanks, Babak. Sorry to hear about your challenges here in Malaysia.
No,
But
it was nice. I love challenge because the challenge help us to improve.
That's true.
Actually.
That's true. Okay. I think after 6 years, we must admit that the push to digitalization across the industry was actually done in a very high-paced manner. It as if like yesterday said, tomorrow we have to start digitalization, and everybody embark on the journey without really knowing what we are getting ourselves into. Okay. So that is actually the first main challenge, is that it was actually quite a top-down approach. Then everyone just, okay, we have to get into digitalization. But to be frank, our people in the industry, it has never been our area, right? Digitalization. We are okay with technologies, but we don't depend on automation and so on. We don't really look at abundance of data to drill the next well. All right. So the main challenge, the first one, is actually the pace that we got into 6 years ago. All right. Everybody needs to be digitalization, so everybody went into it. Okay. Second is actually our culture, the culture of the industry itself when it comes to digitalization, and that is still a challenge until today. All right. Rebuilding the human capital is the second challenge. All right. There's always that fear that robots will take over our drilling engineers, our petroleum engineers, and no one will be working offshore anymore, and so on. So there's always that resistance to accept the digitalization. It is, however, an approach, a different approach needs to be deployed to convince people that digitalization is not here to replace their work. It's actually to help them to deliver their work better. Okay. At the end of the day, there's no way that the industry will allow offshore rigs to be fully unmanned. You know, the risk is so high that if something goes wrong, it involves blowout, it involves HSC and so on, that humans are still needed there. So that's the second challenge that is big to us, and which is still happening, right? On the first one that I mentioned, on the top down, I think the industry has become more mature to approach digitalization. Not many may have heard, but there's also a lot of digitalization projects that, as of today, have been decommissioned. We started off like a big, big bang with all sorts of digitalization 6 years ago, and only last year we realized that that might not be the right solution, the right approach. So there are many digitalization platforms or projects that has been decommissioned because it cannot evolve. Right? So those are the two main challenges, Baba.
Thank you so much. And we have some question also from audience. The first question from Nazar. Okay, he asked about the presentation. Can the audience have access to this presentation? For example, the PDF version?
Oh, I mean, I'm okay. Okay. I have the approval to share this and present this presentation. It's just a matter of how SPE KL want to distribute that. Maybe Fazil can answer this.
Yeah, we can upload it to our LinkedIn page and WhatsApp
sure.
group. Yeah, if you are okay with sharing the presentation.
Sure.
So the audience can find it in the LinkedIn page of the SPKL or WhatsApp group of Technical Circle. The next question from the Alexander. Okay, how the data from the service companies are collected and integrated in your system?
Oh, okay. All right.
Petronas is dealing with several service companies with the different technology.
So the QMAT at this stage, that particular QMAT is for our third-party inspectors. We should only have 2 companies. These inspectors are the one who go and inspect the QQC of the various service companies, Schlumberger, Halliburton, Stegap, and how do they do their QQC. So the platform that we establish is for them to, let me take a step back. the normal process is the third-party inspector goes to the yard and inspect the QQC processes of the service companies, then type up a report and then send it to our engineers, and our engineers then read the report. Our engineers then take the data and key in into our system before the analysis comes out.
Yeah.
Now we just immediately, instead of the third-party inspector writes up the report on a Word document or PDF, whatever, we set up the platform online where they immediately put in the results of their inspection on their site, online, on the cloud. And once they submit, it immediately translates into the dashboard that you saw just now. So we already cut down 2 stages of reporting. So that is basically an open platform that the third-party inspector key in and we see the results. All right.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And the question from Heikel, how open is your machine learning models and algorithm apply here, or is this hidden from public? Okay. You mentioned you have some machine learning techniques.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 of our software actually has a lot of machine learning behind it. We are actually working with third-party service company to come up with a model and all that. The algorithm itself, we have actually written SPE papers and presented it as well. But as we continue to tweak it, it's not 100% so-called perfect. It will remain as our in-house model before it can actually release to public.
Okay, thank you. And another question from Faiz. Okay, actually he's asking about the skill that the well engineer needs for a future. What is your recommendation, especially to younger engineers?
Okay.
They need focus more on the digitalization skill like machine learning, or focus more on the fundamental of the petroleum engineering. How we should prepare ourselves for a future?
All right. Okay. Our energy industry is still focusing on hydrocarbons, right? So our core expertise still remains as petroleum engineers in a nutshell, other than the drilling engineers and so on. However, for the next generation, the skill on digitalization, not so much on the algorithm or the machine learnings, okay? It's more on data analytics. We need to have that, build up that skill of analyzing the data. All right, we are shifting from a typical mundane engineer's job to write up instructions and so on, towards focusing more on data analytics. All right. In-house Petronas, there are programs that we cross-train now. We have chemical engineers who are now data scientists. At the same time, so we quickly employed new data scientists as well to bridge the pace that we have. But if you ask me, in the next generation, what are the skills that fresh graduates needs to have and so on? It's not just the PE. They need to know at least the data analytics, at least that 5 stages. Need to understand how that 5 stages of data analytics works. All right, so that it develops a new mindset that in the energy industry, the next generation needs to analyze more. It's not just about knowing the hard work of working offshore, physical work, rigging up and rigging up. No, it's not just that. You need to have the extra edge of knowing the different data analytics process.
Perfect. And question from Jaffiq, interesting question. What are the key elements for digital solution platform to be sustainable digital platform? Okay, how we can keep such a platform updated?
This is a very crucial element every time we need to deploy a digital initiative. We learned it the hard way. As I said, there were already a number of digital initiatives that we have to decommission. It just doesn't bring any value anymore. So in order to sustain a digital platform, the first thing you need to make sure is it brings out that three elements. It meets that three elements I mentioned just now: the cost of the well, the PCE, and the TCO. Second, the digitalization platform must not add work on the staff. It is supposed to reduce it. Like I mentioned just now, the reporting from 4 stages becomes only 1. Okay, if the digitalization that we introduce dictates that the staff now have to spend another 30 minutes every day to work on it, it will not sustain. It will not sustain. So the system must be fully automated. To reach that automation stage, yes, you may need time. The ODBS, the automated system that we have in MPM, it was not built within a year. It was a 5 years journey before it is fully automated today, right? So those are the elements that to make sure that it's sustainable, it needs to meet that 3 elements of effectiveness. And second is it cannot add more work to people. Okay.
Thank you. And we are out of the round. Maybe we keep one more question and finish the session after that. Okay, the question from the Edu, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Okay, he's asking about the OSDU. Have you used the OSDU in your platform, and which data type you use if you use the OSDU?
Yep. Okay. So
or COE.
Oh, somebody is turning on video.
Yeah,
As
I
well.
think walking around. Yeah.
Okay. OSDU is part of the end state that we want to achieve, especially if you can recall the vertical connectivity. Yeah? So Wells itself, per se, we are not using OSDU yet, but anything that we deploy from now on needs to from any company, any new things that are being introduced, digitalization on Wells, need to ensure that at the end of the day, it will connect to OSDU vertically. All right. So the end state at the end of the day, yes, we are going towards OSDU platform. All right.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Really appreciate your time, and almost we are out of the time. So I would like to express my thanks for such a nice presentation, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience to all SPE member of the KL. Thank you so much, Shahril.
Thank you very much, Baba.
And
thank you, everyone.
all the best for the future. We are looking to hear you next year to see which advancement you had during 2022.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Please keep us updated.
Sure, sure. For everyone, follow me on LinkedIn should be able to hear the latest.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Almost we are at the end of the session. So the feedback of audience help us to improve the quality of the this type of events. Please drop us the email. Any type of feedback, more welcome. We are looking forward to hearing more from you to improve the quality of the talks. And as I mentioned, for today's session, we have 2 winners, and we will announce these 2 winners next week in the LinkedIn or WhatsApp group of the SPE KL Technical Circle. You can join through one of this group, and also over there you can find a lot of interesting stuff and share it. And also these 2 platforms are perfect for sharing the knowledge. And thank you everybody for attending this session. This session has been recorded. Later on you can find it in the YouTube. And our next talk will be about the dynamic modeling for CO2 storage studies by Maria and James from the